The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and I'm Al Warren. Who else would I be? And we've got Mr. John Copenhaver.
Hey, Al, how you doing?
I've already given you my list of woes. I don't want to bring down the audience. I mean, it's, if they watch the news, that'll be enough. Never mind hearing about me. But I'm over COVID.
That is something to celebrate.
But I will say one thing. I still cannot smell or taste.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm in my 5th week, and I'm pretty much over all the aches and pains and all the problems, but there's still nothing. I grind coffee, and not a thing.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem. I just have like a ringing in my ears that COVID decided to give me. So it gives everyone something special.
I think that ringing was happening before, wasn't it? And that rattle, or that was the rattle, not a ring. Sorry.
Rattle.
Well, so you've got a great guest for us today. My God, this is fantastic. So let's just jump right in because this is exciting. So let's welcome to the show Yasmin Angoe. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, y'all. I appreciate it.
Yasmin, how did you write such great novels? Like, what happened? Where did this come from?
My imagination. I don't know.
No, you see, this is really important. I got to figure out how to do this because, you see, I want to do this right. So you need to give me all the advice. How can I write such great novels as you do? Like, what am I doing here?
Oh,
so
gosh.
Explain this step by step. I got my pen out. And let's teach
craft class, yeah.
Yeah, let's do a quick class on how to write.
I didn't make my lesson plan and stuff, so this is a little, right off the cuff.
Shocking.
You're so funny. Y'all are funny. I don't know. I appreciate you, Al, for saying that. That's a really big compliment, and I appreciate it. But honestly, it was just a story that had been churning in my head for a long time, and I just wanted to incorporate the things that I love, which are action thrillers and crime thrillers and John Wick-esque kind of, stories and things like that, and make it, wrap. And I have a very big imagination. I spent a lot of time alone, and so that's pretty much what it was.
Well, okay. We'll leave that one for the X-rated version of the show.
Okay.
No, but when you said that, okay, so you say this, the story just kind of stayed in your mind and over and that. So maybe explain that to people that don't write. How do you describe that in essence? You've kind of got this character and kind of like what you were saying, these different pieces and a story in your mind, and you won't forget it. See, because most people, when you talk to them, they think about something and then they forget it the next day, right? But you've got this going on and on and on. So how do you describe that then?
Yeah, well, so back in, when I really started thinking about Nena, and definitely the character came first because I was like, I really want to write about this fierce, woman. And I wanted to incorporate my culture. My family is from Ghana. And so I wanted to incorporate that in there. And I was like, and how do I do that? And what I was seeing on TV and even in books, I really wasn't reading stories that, featured people who looked like me, women who looked like me, and who were the ones doing the saving. They were always the ones that were being saved. They were always the love interest, or they were the girl Fridays, the one who feeds all the information to the male protagonist who saves the day. And so I was like, I don't see what I want to see, which is, me or just women in general doing all these fantastic things. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and write one. And so I knew I wanted this female character. I knew I wanted her to have a job that wasn't something that, most people would, expect from her. I wanted it to be a job that was really, like, oh my gosh, how could anybody want to be an assassin when she didn't really want to be an assassin? She just kind of chose it because that's what she needed for her. And so that's why that story really like stuck to me, because I really wanted to write something that I was writing for me, right? And I wanted to write something that I knew that I would just like totally devour as a reader, that I loved and incorporated all of these things that I loved. And that story just kind of, came from that.
Yeah, but who is it that you want to assassinate?
Well, I can't tell you that.
No, but in a general theme, when you say so you've got this character, and you got the idea, and you want her to be this like you said, John Wick, this sort of person that's going to go out there and save the day, so to speak, just make things right. But is there something that I'm just trying to see if you do you get this every day in the world? Is it something you see in the world every day that you wish you could solve it in that way? Is that like, would you want this character to be real and in the real world today?
I would want her to be real because I think that she is more than just like, the assassin that maybe people would imagine her to be. She's a very deep person, and there are very many layers to her. She doesn't kill just because, you know what I mean? There's a reason, and she has a code, and there are rules to why she has, marks, people she goes after for her job and things like that. And I'm not saying that I want anybody to go out and do that. Let's, put that out there right now. But what I did want was to write a character who was, she was very much secure in who she is, and in her job choice. And I wanted a strong character who doesn't matter what she does. And there are so many people who have all these jobs and people judge them and look down on them and things like that. And, you have to have pride in what you do, because you do what you do, you chose it or not, but you have pride in it. And she has pride in what she does because she does it well. Not necessarily that she does this thing, but that she does it well. And so, as a woman, sometimes, we have to have jobs that we don't like. And, if we're powerful women in the work field, people think things of us, that we're a bitch, or, that we're cold hearted. They ask us to smile. And so my character doesn't really like to smile. And so that's really what I really wanted, was for her to embody this, powerful, strong, successful and secure woman who, was very proud of how well she does her job, and that she can compartmentalize and she can take care of business, and then she could still, be all those things that she needs to be at the time that she needs to be them. So, and sure, there are people that I'm mad at that in my head, I'm like, man, if, I'm going to write you in my book, So I mean, sure, there were people that I was mad at, and a lot of the themes that are in the book are things that were going on in my life at that time too. So, but I just, wrote them in a different way, and, took care of them in a different way. That was like my therapy. So that's a long answer for your question. So.
No, that's all right. That's right. John calls me a bitch too.
Do you, John?
Yeah.
And he's saying smile.
Only off the air. One question I have, I write mystery fiction, but it is, I would not say that my characters are particularly physical. And I'm always in admiration of being able to write physicality with, a lot of grace and poise. You do that so well. And I'm just, I'm curious about, I guess it's a two-part question. One is just, how do you get good at writing something like that? And I think the other part of the question is, do you feel that sort of having, a strong female character, not just one that is strong in her sort of emotional self and her intellectual self, but also physical, as part of your endeavor with writing these kinds of thrillers?
So how I write that, I study a lot in terms of, that I will, whatever I'm reading, I'm paying special attention to anything physical that they're doing and how they, have, action scenes and fights. And I also wanted, with her physicality, it to be true to who she is and, true to like what I really believe. And I like a fantastical story too, but my character isn't going to leap from building to building and do all of that stuff. You know what I mean? So she's going to have some sort of like, I'm like, okay, girl, we're not going to do that, right? We're going to leave that to Jason Bourne. But what she is going to do and what her strength is, I had to decide, okay, what is going to be her strength? Her strength is going to be more, hand-to-hand combat, because then she can maybe take on, someone who's a little bit bigger because she knows these like different fighting moves. And then I have a friend who, she's like a black belt in martial arts. And so I'll ask her, if I want to, hit someone, and get, have them just fall to the ground or whatever, what can I do? What injuries can I inflict? What inside, body part can I really hurt that just brings them down? And so she'll talk, me through whatever she's done maybe in her class. And, I'll ask her to say it again and I'll write it like word for word. And then I'll just kind of like envision it and try it myself in the room. So it looks very weird if someone were to pass by and see me actually trying to like do these things. And I do that. And sometimes I even enlist my kids. Like I think there was a scene in the second book, and I think Nena had like a gun to her head or something like that. And I actually went and got my child and was like, can you put a gun to or you put your finger to my head? And I want to see if I can do this move to get you, away from me. And my kid, I guess, is just so used to it. She was just like, okay. And so she just came, and there she is. I'm on my knees and she's got her hand to me like a gun. And so I like will act it out and just try to see if that makes sense. And then I'll write it. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's really interesting. It's sort of like, it feels like it's sort of two-parter. One, you're, looking at what's going on with other writers and how they achieve it, but also that you sort of walk through it physically. That makes a lot of sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, because I have to understand it. I can't write it if I don't understand how it actually happens, the mechanisms of how it might work. And I also, anytime some action scene or fight scene comes up on TV, I'm looking at that and I'm stopping and rewinding it and, trying to see how they do things and how would I word, this thing that they do. A lot of times I'm trying to figure out how to describe a certain move, because I don't necessarily know what those moves are called. And so it's a lot of that. It takes a little bit of the fun out, but then once it all comes together, then y'all tell me that it's okay. And I'm like, okay, whew, I landed that. Thank goodness.
I think the truth probably is that Yasmin actually goes out on the street dressed in leather and black and actually attacks people.
I do actually.
Yeah. And just to see, she actually is the stand-in for Queen Latifah, right?
Yeah. On the Equalizer, yeah.
I knew it. Well, so the main character, a lot of writers, fiction writers, will say that there are a lot of themselves in that main character, and they write a lot of things that either they'd like to be or that they are, or maybe things that they don't like about themselves. Like you hear all sorts of stories like that. So what's your relationship with your main character?
So she's definitely all the things that I'm not. And she, like being physical, like, she likes to, work out and train and stuff like that. And I don't like to do that stuff. And she's much more, brave than I am, because I definitely would run the other way, in face of a lot of things that she goes through. The one or the couple things that we do share have to do with food, because I made her a foodie and she loves lemon pepper wings and bacon cheeseburgers and chocolate milkshakes. And those are the things that I love. So those are the things that Nena and I share. And I'm proud to say that. But everything else is just stuff that, I think these are the things that I find really awesome about, women in general, and women who can like do all these like athletic things, and women who aren't afraid to just really take things by the reins and like solve solutions and make solutions and things like that. So, yeah, that's Nena in a nutshell. Nena and me.
So now in book one, Her Name is Knight, you tackle human trafficking and have that as a main theme in the book. Did you do a lot of research in that area, or did you have to, or what did you discover in researching that book that maybe surprised you?
Right. So in researching it, what am I trying to say? What I thought, happened, with human trafficking and how, people ended up being taken and things like that were things that I just really didn't know. Like, you never really know, and I still don't know. And so one big thing that I learned that was just so amazing to me, and I just couldn't believe it, is, the fact that it could be anybody, and it could be right next door, and you would never know it, right? They look so innocuous, and they are so pleasant, some of them, or whatever, and then you wouldn't know that there's a trafficking situation happening. And that was something that was very scary to me, because you just don't know who you're living next door to. And that's something that I learned. And so another part of the research was, and what stayed with me, I was, teaching, I was still teaching, and I went to one of these teaching conferences. It was in Chicago, and one of the sessions that they had were from survivors of sex trafficking and things like that, and sex workers. And they were talking about their stories, and they were talking about, how it all happened for them, and how they survived it, and how they're thriving now. And I found their stories of survival, and how, beautiful they are, and how strong they are, and are able to talk about all these things that happened to them, and use that as, a teachable moment, rather than you have that be something that just kept them shamed, or whatever the case. And that's, really when I knew, I want to really highlight and celebrate how these people survived, and how they were able to just really undergo all of these things that, people just didn't even pay attention to, because they were just right next door, and they just, didn't give them a second thought. And so those are the things that I really, in my research, discovered and was amazed at, how strong they are, how their strength in surviving all of that. And I tried to embody that in Nena as she's going through those struggles. None of their stories are in mine, because I don't specifically remember their stories, but just their spirit, if that makes any sense, and their will to survive, and their will to not let that thing be the thing that kills them, if that makes any sense, that they're going to survive it and be better for it, and reimagine their lives in the way that they want it after they've gotten out of it. So that's what I took from all of that research.
But I know what you're saying, because you're talking to the people, or if you're interviewing people or reading about them, you certainly understand what they've been through, and it's just amazing how they can find that strength, that inner will to get through it all, and to not only survive, but to go on in living a good life.
Exactly.
I find that amazing when I see that. So when someone takes home one of these two books and reads it, I'm guessing you have a subtext, or quite there's a message that you want them to get that's underneath all of the action and adventure and heartfelt stuff about important things like trafficking stuff. I'm guessing, but do you actually put in a subtext or have a message for people?
I don't know that I have a message. I definitely had different themes that I wanted to explore, and it's very heavy in the story. Besides, her growth, and her survivorship, I should say. It's heavy on family, right? Because family was important to me, and and the thought of your family that you're born into versus the family that you choose, your found family, and how important that is. Sometimes the people that we find and bring into our lives are more important and are more, we have more love for them than the people that, we are born into, right? Because we can't choose who we're born into. And so I explored that. And then father-daughter relationships and, relationships between siblings and also very much so the whole idea behind the tribe, the organization that she works for. I wanted to make the message. If we're going to say that I had a message, definitely the message is that, people from Africa are not, the stereotypes that everyone typically sees in all sorts of literature and in history and things like that. We are definitely a people that are like everyone else, and we don't consider ourselves like third world or whatever. And we are rich people with rich, resources in our lands. And so that's definitely what I wanted to show. And that was the message, is that there are so many things, there are so many people in this continent of Africa that everyone should get to know and see all of these different things. We are not just these, things that are projected out there. So that might be the message, but everything else, all those other themes are definitely things that I was exploring because I was trying to figure that out for myself as well.
So the book 2 is called They Come at Night.
Mm-hmm.
What's the theme of this? You were talking a little bit about that. I guess you're talking about the tribes and protecting the family and stuff.
They Come at Night. The theme that moves, it's still, a community. It's still, a tribe, the whole, who do you surround yourself with and who are your loyalties to? And so in the first book, it's very much more like getting to know Nena. I think I consider it like her origin story. And so you find out how she became this, assassin and all of these different elements around her. And with a group, an organization like the tribe, with what they're trying to do, which is to really uphold the people of the African diaspora and to make them the ones who become rich off of their resources that are cultivated from their land. That just kind of trickles into, book 2 and then book 3. So they're trying to do this wonderful thing for their people. And of course, there are going to be, other factions that don't necessarily share that same vision. And so that's what kind of leads into book 2, is these factions that, don't align with what Nena and her family are thinking for the people of what they want to do in their ventures. And so people are coming literally at the Knight family and at Nena, and she has to figure out how to save them all and keep the tribe and its overall vision, the good of their vision, going.
When you sat down and started writing this, did you have all 3 books already outlined? Is that kind of how you put it together?
No, I didn't. When I first started writing Her Name is Night, it really was going to be just that one book. And then as, I was talking to my agent, and even as I was writing it towards the end, I was like, man, there's just so much story that I can tell with Nena. I just really fell in love with her character and also the people that surround her. I loved all of the characters, and I just didn't want to be done with them. So we asked if it could be, like a 2-book, or actually Thomas and Mercer asked us if it could be 2 books. And I said, oh, sure. I said, but I think if I'm going to do 2, I think maybe 3 is a better arc for me because I can focus. That's when I started thinking, first one is a focus on her and her coming about. Second one is a focus on, who's coming after the tribe and the Knight family. And the third is a focus on, I don't want to break, but even a bigger version of like who is trying to, people who are trying to really take down the things that the tribe is doing. So we get a little bit more of the tribe in each of the books, and more so in the third. You really get to see kind of how they work, and you see Nena in a different position than she was in books 2 and 3. So there's like a definite growth for her. And through her growth, you see everything else that's coming about.
Well, that's interesting. What's your favorite part of writing?
It used to be the actual creating of it until I had deadlines. And deadlines suck the soul out of creating for me. So now it's revising, because then that pressure of, creating this thing by deadline and making this word count by deadline is off my head. And when I'm revising, then I can go and really make it polished and shine the way I'd like it to be.
I'm curious. You said, of course, that you wrote this book because you felt like you weren't seeing this character and this sort of situation in things that you read. I'm curious, though. I'm sure you still had influences and things that you read. You felt like you were kind of reaching through. Who are your sort of, literary heroes or heroines, as it may be?
Yeah. No, okay, so I really like James Patterson's Alex Cross. Though when I started to read Alex Cross, that's when I really was like, oh, okay, there's this, Black FBI investigator, and, he is just really doing all these things. And that was my first time that I really saw, a Black person in that kind of role. And I really, really love, that whole entire series. So Alex Cross, and then Walter Mosley, his books are just, prolific. I just love that. Eleanor Taylor Bland, I love her stories because she has that, investigator or detective, but the detective is, a single Black mom of a son. And so that kind of resonated with me. There's, Toni Morrison. And I love a Stephen King, so I love horror, and I know that that's not necessarily the same genre, but I absolutely love Stephen King and his writing and his craft, and I really try to envision that and embody that when I'm writing, because I just think he's so prolific. There's just so many people. So I don't know, I gave you some names, but it could change anytime. It's just whoever is on my mind. Octavia Butler with sci-fi. So I read across the gamut, right? And so it's just, I just love everybody. I love you guys too. Hello.
You're supposed to start out with the hosts.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, you guys' books. Well, that's fine. That's all right. It's all good.
I'm waiting for John's second one. What? I can't wait. The next one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of deadlines and fighting through wanting to love a thing while it's on deadline, it's an interesting. Mine's a little bit a deadline I've created for myself to a certain degree, but I needed to do that because I take too long to write books. So I admire your ability to, get it done. I got to get it done.
Get her done.
Listen, only because they put that deadline on me, and it's been like a book a year, and I don't want anyone to take the money back, so I have to. But if I could have a little bit more time, then I definitely would have taken that.
So you love horror fiction, which I don't think I knew that. So I'm curious, would you ever, down the road a bit, want to write a horror story, or is that purely a love from a reader standpoint?
No, I would absolutely like to write a horror story. I just am terrified that it won't be as good as the ones that are out there. If I write a horror story, I want to truly terrify people. And so but I know I have it in me. It's just something I really, really love. I want to be scared, and I want to do that for the reader as well. So yeah, maybe down the line I would. I have a short story that I wrote that was horror, and so I'm always thinking about whether I will expand that or not. I don't know what I'll do, but definitely.
Well, I like the idea, so not that you do it for me, but.
Well, are you trailing more in the suspense horror type idea, or something more gory?
No, it doesn't have to be gory, because I think the horror to me is in the anticipation and the whole, the whole like build up and lead up to this thing that's the monster or whatever. It definitely doesn't have to be like Freddy or anything like that. Though, a little bit of that is okay, for shock factor, and everything. But yeah, I definitely like to keep, the reader in suspense and have that anticipation, like building to the point, like they're just going to burst. That's what I want. People to burst.
They explode. Explode.
Just like that.
Well, I
With
see.
suspense.
Well, so what is it for Yasmin in the day? Like, what do you do in your writing day? Can you plan this out and go, okay, well, I've got nobody around from 10 to 2 for the next 4 days, so I'm going to sit and write, and can you turn it on at 10 and turn it off at 2 type thing? Or does there have to be a certain mood or feeling that's associated with the writing, and you can't always do it then?
Yeah, that's a great question. There definitely has to be a mood, because I can tell myself I'm going to start writing at 9 in the morning, and I tell myself that every day, and I might not really start to write until 11, 12 o'clock, because by then I feel like, okay, I have something I, need to write. And I'm feeling it. And I don't write in order. So, I write by scene. And so it's whatever I'm feeling at that moment, that's what I'm going to write. And whatever's churning in my mind, a lot of times I'll wake up to something that's in my mind that, okay, this is what I'll probably write today. But like I said, I won't start it right at 9 o'clock because I'm a mom and wife and stuff like that. And so I've got to do family things. Apparently, that's what they tell me. And so I have to get all of them off. And so when I get all of them off, then I have to like ground myself in the writing. And so it takes me a minute. And John, you said, it takes you a long time to write stuff. It takes me a long time to get to the writing, period. I'm a long thinker and then a faster writer. So I really have to go through the story. And even when I'm like waking up to that scene that I mentioned to y'all, I'm thinking about that for those couple of hours that I'm not actually writing and really sussing it out in my head before I actually put it, down on. And sometimes I'll do longhand. I prefer longhand, but sometimes I don't have time for that. So then I'll type it up.
It's really interesting. I think that part of the writing process is preparing to write. It's weird. It's like our minds have to get them in gear before we can get to the page. Or at least I find that to be the case.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But when you say waking up to the scenes, do you hear your characters in your head? Do you hear the voices?
Oh, yes, definitely. They have full conversations with each other, and telling the story. I see the scenes playing out in my head like a movie. And I just write what I see, but I have to see the whole thing, out. Right. Before I write
so
it.
You're not waking up in the middle of the night with like a shovel in your hand and muddy shoes. Right?
No, sometimes I do. No, I do wake up in the middle of the night. But you'll see if I'm caught awake at the middle of the night, it's with my phone and I'm like furiously typing an email to myself, because that's the thing. That's what I do. I type an email to myself with this, whatever it is that just played out in my head, and trying to remember that feel of it so that I can come back to it later on when it's an appropriate time. But
you know those really dark, heavy sheer curtains? You must have those. Yeah, the blackout. You must have them around your house because the neighbors would be thinking, "Oh my God, what's going on over there?" Right?
Right. No, I don't. We just have blinds. But yeah, you would think like neighbors or my husband, he might wake up you like, why are you up at 3 o'clock? I think he's used to it. He just rolls over and ignores me, and I'm here trying to hide the light, and everything. But yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
I don't know. She's on her knees and the kid's got looks like a gun to her head.
A gun to her head, yeah. Like, what was that about? Like, that would have been funny.
What's going on over
something
there?
out.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, the pandemic must have been really difficult in a sense too, because if you're a little bit sensitive to what's going on in your life, as in when you write, and you've got to be in a certain mood. Because I know a lot of writers we've talked to, all the stress, the anxiety of not only the pandemic, but people's reactions to it and all of the stuff that was going on and that. Did that affect trying to do book number 2?
Yeah, it really did. It was really hard because, like you said, everybody was home, and family doesn't necessarily, though they know you're a writer and stuff, but like they really don't know what that means. They just think, oh, you're just sitting at the desk, so I can come talk to you. Even when they see that you're hard, at typing something away, they want to come talk to you and ask you, questions like, where's the ketchup and all of that. And so there was a lot of that. And it was hard. And so a lot of my writing had to take place, when everyone was asleep, and I knew that nobody was going to come and bother me for a chunk of time. So, and it slowed the process down, but, like I said, I had deadlines and I had to get it done. So I pushed it off as long as I could, and then came down to the wire, and then finally I just had to make myself do the thing.
Yeah. But sometimes I think that works, because I felt that, and I've done that, and it's turned out to be good. But do you think that the stress around you and things like that, like pandemic, and you got all these things going on, do you think that'll seep into your writing somehow? You think it makes it a little darker? I personally, I think that a lot of writers, I think it will come into the writing, but they won't necessarily see it now. It's something you'll look back at in 10 years, and you'll kind of maybe see it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I wrote something else, but like, Nena was dark to begin with. It's a dark story. And so I had to stick with that vibe. So it's hard for me to know whether, and I don't think that the second book is darker than the first. So, I would have had to have written something else to see how dark, if I got any darker, or whatever the case may be, if my feelings from the pandemic really kind of bled themselves onto the pages. But luckily I was, I had to stay on brand with the darkness and with the killings and stuff like that. So it wasn't any different to me.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
We could contrast. I mean, you could contrast it. I mean, I know some writers we talked to thought maybe it was sort of they went a little lighter because they're like, it's so dark in the world, so I'm not going to write in that space. I mean, I know you're writing dark stuff, and you do have to stay on brand, but it's interesting sort of how people have reacted. I don't think it really made much difference to me either, but I think writing is a nice place to go to avoid all the other stuff. But
well, I find that I tend to have less sympathy for the bad people in what I write, but I'm writing true stories. Yeah. So maybe I think that it can be darker for me. What comes next? So you've got book 3, but then where are you going to go after the third book is out and complete?
Yeah. So after the third book, I have one more with Thomas and Mercer, and that's going to be a standalone. So I have to think about what kind of story I want to write there. That'll be interesting. It'll be like a palate cleanser for me because I'm not going to be in the world of Nena. And I'm excited about it, but I'm also a little nervous, because I definitely want to deliver. And I don't have like the full story in my mind. I just have little bits and pieces. And so I'm in the process of my long thinking, to get that synopsis to them, and hopefully something that they're going to be happy with so that I can start writing it. But I think they'll like it. I just got to make sure that it has like all the things that I want to put in it.
So what do you think each book does for you? Like when you complete one of these books, at the end of it and you look back, how do you think it changes you?
That's a good question. I don't think that I've like thought about it. I can't even say that it makes me feel more secure in my writing, because I'm always insecure about my writing. That just won't stop. But it makes me feel satisfied when I hear from readers when they email me or message me about how much they enjoyed the story, and when they talk to me about certain parts parts of the stories that really resonated with them, even parts that I have forgotten that I put in. That is what I think really makes it all worth it for me, because I'm like, all I've ever wanted to do since I was a kid and reading these books and was taken away into all these different worlds, was to have that same kind of effect on someone else, and for someone else to be like, oh my gosh, I just loved this world that you took me to, and these stories and all these emotions that you put me through. And so to have that finally come back and people tell me that to me is so gratifying. And I think that's my absolute favorite thing.
You know, you were saying earlier how you had the story, you know, kind of like inside of you for a long time, churning, and that. Was there a particular incident or something that happened that made you want to actually go from it being inside you and inside your mind to actually putting it on paper and letting other people read it? And I say that especially because when you're writing stories like what you're doing, you're also putting a lot of your own soul into it. You're exposing a lot of your own vulnerability, so to speak. You're sort of letting the world see who
Right.
you are in some parts. So when it comes to that, that's usually, I find that to be a lot of courage for someone to do that. When you actually do it and put it on paper and then publish it. Was there something that made you jump over that bridge or so jump off to do that?
Yeah, like I just had a total life change at that time. The time that when I started thinking about Nena, I was, I had recently lost my dad, and, my kids and I had moved to this new location, and we didn't know anybody who lived, in this town that we lived in South Carolina. So we had to go and find, people who were going to be our friends and things like that. And so that's the same kind of stuff that you see in that story, and going through, big major life changes, and going through, the loss of a parent, and all that stuff that you see in that story were literally things that I was living through at that time. But it took me time to kind of go through that before I actually started writing. And I think I started really writing the story in 2018, end of 2018, early 2019. But I started thinking about it as far back as 2011 when my father passed. So what made me finally start to write it was I just wasn't feeling happy at the time. I wasn't feeling settled, and y'all might, feel me on this. It's like when I don't write, I don't feel settled. I feel like really angsty and like I got to get this thing out, but I didn't know what I was, I was teaching and then raising the kids. And so there wasn't a lot of time for writing, and I just really wasn't feeling myself. And so finally I was like, Yasmin, you have to do this. You just have to make a change. And that change was pick up your writing again and, get that out and see how you feel then. And so it was very cathartic for me to write this story and to write these feelings that I've had bottled up for all these years, with the loss of my dad and all these other changes that were going on. And so that's really the thing that sparked. I felt ready to tell the story in this particular way and to get out all these feelings that I was going through and all these experiences that I was living in this different way.
A lot of what makes a book good, and definitely in your books, are the characters being real, feeling real. That they have the right emotion to them and stuff. So in order to do that, how do you do that? And I mean that not necessarily with the main character, because that's someone you're relating to and someone that you have something you want to accomplish with, but the evil characters, the people that are bad, the ones that are having, they're in the book, they're in the story to create, turmoil and to hurt. How do you get in the heads and do it and still have it come out real? Because because these people are not what we think they are; they're what you make them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's a tough thing to do. And what's your secret?
Yeah, that's a tough thing that I don't know what my secret is. I just all I
You gotta
know.
help me.
all I know about, like, writing about characters, writing about villains especially, is when I'm writing my villains, I'm thinking, okay, to the villain, they are the hero, right? They are steadfast in their beliefs. They think they're right. And they have a reason for why they're doing the thing that they do. And so I don't necessarily write the villain to be a villain. I write the villain to be true to whatever their beliefs are and whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish for themselves. And through that comes their badness, I think, because they're going to do the exact opposite of what, Nena and the rest of her team, would do. To help people. They don't want to help people. They want to help themselves, or they want to help a certain group of people that eventually just helps them. You know what I mean? And so that's how I think about it. And I never try to write a villain that is all bad, because I don't think that, that's true, to human nature. I think even the baddest people have, or the worst people have, a little bit of something that we can relate to. So I also try to write, characters, period, but villains that are relatable in some way to the reader. So the reader may not be, a killer or whatever, but they might understand, oh, this person became a killer and is so angry because someone killed his mom or something like that. You know what I mean? And I can understand that feeling of wanting, revenge because, someone killed your mom or something like that. So I try to make something relatable to the reader so that they can empathize with the villain to a degree, but then they also want that villain to get like their comeuppance.
Right. Yeah. Naughty girls need love too.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting. So, you're a mother and you've got stuff going on and you're busy and you run out to the store and you're in the lineup and some nasty lady cuts you off in the lineup, right? And she buds right in and all that stuff. Now, do you take that woman and write her in your book and have her like beaten and killed and all that? Do you?
No, not if it's just something that's going on in the store. Usually I just kind of give her a dirty look and then I'll get over it by the time I probably won't. I'll probably talk about it a lot to myself and fuss all the way back home, and then get that all out. But yeah, no, there's not, I really cannot, I joke when I say that, oh yeah, I'm going to write this person, like write their death, because I really don't think of anyone in particular when I'm like writing about someone, dying or a bad person or anything. It's just maybe certain elements, I guess, of people. So it's just bits and pieces of bad characteristics and traits that I pick from people and even from myself, and then kind of create a person that way. But yeah, if I came across a person at the store, or, even like sometimes I get some road rage, I do have road rage a little bit, and you'll see me, I'll be cursing in my car and, I might flip a finger or something, so I get my aggression out that way.
Oh, come on. Give us some real names here. Come on. What's going on? Like some of these bad characters, they're people you've got to have known,
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. Well, maybe if there's one, it may be my ex, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one that got set on fire, right? No.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so do you enjoy then, interacting with the readers and people like that? Do you like the internet world? Are you into social media and all that? Do you have a website and all this sort of stuff? And do people find you easily, or are you hidden?
No, I think they find me pretty easily, and I am on social media, but I'm not like a big person to, make videos and do all that stuff. Like that's not me. And I'm a big, I'll go and I'll like follow people and I'll like what they're doing and stuff like that. So I'll be quiet that way. And then sometimes I'll post something, I'll agree with them, but like you won't see too much from me because I just don't know what to say. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if it's really interesting to everyone else, but I do like interacting with readers and with people who are on social. And so like if they, sometimes they'll DM me on my author page on Facebook, and I'll answer them, or in IG they'll, message me and I'll answer, their question or anything like that. And they'll email me. So they'll go to my website and they'll email, and I'm writing them back and stuff like that. So, because I want to thank them for even taking the time, they don't have to choose my book, and they do. And so I appreciate, them allowing me into their world and to entertain them a little bit.
Yeah. Someone writes a bad review. Do you go after them?
I don't read reviews.
Oh, you don't? You don't even look at them?
Oh. Nope, I don't even look at them, because I know what they'll do to me. I gotta protect my space, Al. I gotta protect my space. And protecting my space means I don't read the good ones or the bad ones, because I just don't want to, I know that any bad one that I read will be the thing that I always think about. Even if there's a bazillion good ones to one bad, it's the bad that I'll think about. And I know that things are subjective. And I just say that, if it's a bad review, my book wasn't meant for them. And that's okay. But I don't have to read that, because I kind of like it and other people like it. So I'm just going to go with that.
Oh, geez, I hunt them down and have them terminated.
Do you really?
Yeah, I get them terminated. Are you kidding? I get them blasted. How dare you? No, actually, no, I used to be stressed about it, but I'm not anymore.
Really?
I'm an old guy now. I don't care. And not only that, I found that, in the early days, when you focus on things like that, you focused on sales, or you're focused on reviews, good or bad, or that people love me or they don't love me, and you start focusing on that, I think it takes away from the writing. My focus isn't the writing then; it's being interfered for me. But I'm just an emotional mess. I'm terrible that way, because if I'm stressed and bothered by something, then I'm not going to write correctly, or I'm going to write in response to what people are saying, and that's not the right thing to do, right? So, I'm Madonna. You like it or you don't.
Mm-hmm. Me too. You and me are both Madonnas.
Yeah, I've got to take that route, because otherwise, I'll be a mess.
Well, you can't make it. I mean, you can't be something everyone likes anyone. That's impossible. I mean, So
well, that's you, John. Everybody loves you.
Oh no,
everybody loves John.
Yeah, everyone loves John. They're not calling you names like me. Come on, they love you.
Oh, I'm sure I've been called names, but
what they say behind your back doesn't matter. Well, let's see. Now, let's find out about your website, or how you do market. I guess you'll be in all the bookstores, of course, and of course Amazon and all that, right? And
yes.
And what is your website?
So my website is YasminAngoe.com, and on Twitter I am at Yas A Writer. And IG, I am author_Yas. So you can find me there. And if you look for me on Facebook, it's just my name, and you'll find my page, and you can say hello, and I'll say hello back.
Yeah, it's probably not really you. You've got someone that does it for you.
I wish. I'm not big at all. It's all me.
Oh, don't have like 15 agents and all that going on?
No. That must be nice though. I wish, because I surely don't want to like come up with things on my own. But I answer back. It's me.
I'd be happy for just one personal assistant.
Right? Oh my gosh, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be nice? Well, it's been a real pleasure. Now, the two books out are, of course, Her Name is Night and They Come at Night. And the author has been our guest, Yasmin Angoe. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, John and Al. Thank you.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.